need to get a light there.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Artcasters episode number 394, inching up on our way to 400. And we are back. We took a few weeks off. Partially, like some of us were on vacation, some of us were sick. We had some technical difficulties with some previous shows and things like that. But hopefully we're back and on a roll. But and that's going to lead into our topic because when things come up and you get kind of thrown off schedule, sometimes it's hard to get back on schedule. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, we'll do what we always do. And as you can guess right now, or if you're watching this, I don't know how many people just like listen to it. Maybe like listen while it's on in the background. I don't know. But anyway, it's just us three tonight. Because we're, like I said, we're coming back, so we might as well just focus on us and for us to catch up with each other too, because it's been a while since we've talked. So we'll get rolling, but we'll do what we always do. We'll go around the virtual room and promote anything that we've got. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's kind of the same thing that I'm always talking about. I have on my website at circworks.com, I've got digital products that will help you create comics better, more efficiently. Things like fonts. If you want to learn how to do lettering, I've got a really good lettering masterclass that will teach you everything you know and allow you to practice and things like that. All kinds of stuff like that. In addition to my own comic, Young and the Dead, it's a kids versus zombie adventure story. Issues 1 through 5 are available right now. I'm working on issue 6. I'm inking it currently. And then besides that, go to my YouTube channel. It is at CircWorks. Just search CircWorks on YouTube. I'm doing some cool stuff over there where I'm kind of reverse engineering some classic nostalgia from the 70s, 80s, and 90s and putting my own interpretation on it. And I'm trying to ramp back up and get some more of that stuff out there too. But the stuff that I have right now is pretty awesome. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. If you have, maybe check it out again because it's good stuff. All right. So now we'll move over to Corey. Corey, what's going on in your world?
Same old stuff, man. I've got a lot of non-art things happening, and then a lot of client work. So no like personal stuff, but yeah, just want to say hi to Chase, who's coming in from Maui,
Cool.
and
Awesome.
Keenan is coming in as well. Yeah, so I've been doing like I got this done, which is going to be a design that I did that'll be embroidered on hats for work, and then I am building a sauna in my backyard. So we've got like a bunch of construction. My cat died during the construction, which was sad and kind of convenient for the hole that we dug. Anyway, some of that stuff, and then, but I made my son's Halloween costume, and it was and I'll be putting a video out at some point. But it was I did a Gonk droid from Star Wars.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it was red. But because of that, I bought a rivet gun, which are not as expensive as you would think, and I've always wanted one. And so I have this this is a Pelican 1095 case that fits like a MacBook Pro really well. So I can fit a MacBook Pro and a iPad in here. But with the titanium in my shoulder, like I can't do like satchels anymore. I can just do backpacks, but I can't do like a briefcase or like a single strap. It just hurts. And so I kind of had to go to a backpack. Anyway, but then I got this rivet gun and I was like, oh, so this is the thing I wanted to show you guys is I turned
Cool.
I turned this into a backpack. And so it's like riveted. Yeah, it's riveted at the top and it's so much more comfortable. Like it's super light and everything, whereas it was really heavy and kind of cutting into the hardware in my collarbone. Anyway, I'm really excited about this. So it's like non-art stuff, and you'll see me working on hopefully finishing up in the next maybe this week, maybe next week, client job for if longtime watchers will remember Kathy Wilson from Pendragon Studios. She illustrated a children's book, and she and I are collaborating on an animation for the promotion of that children's book. And so it's kind of fun to work with Kathy's art because she's got a really just beautiful painterly style, and so it's fun to really make that move. So that's kind of what I've been doing. It's all a bunch of stuff that nobody can see right now, but if you're on the newsletter, eventually I've been keeping track and taking footage of all this stuff. I just haven't had a chance to edit it all together yet. And I can talk now because I like for 3 days last week I couldn't speak. I had to type a class. So like it was the most awkward.
I could not do that.
Oh, it was I was sitting there and they would ask me a question and then I would I had my laptop hooked up to the projector and I'd type my answer out and they're all like reading along. I'm like, this is the least efficient way of doing things. Anyway, so I've never done that before in 10 years of teaching. So that was a new one. But yeah. Anyway, if you want to hear about any of this stuff, I'm sure some or all of it will be coming out at some point in time if you go to coreykerr.com/email and sign up for the email newsletter.
Nice.
All right, Josh.
I am doing something really stupid that I will share with you guys in a second. Inspired by Corey's tale of his riveting tale.
My riveting tale.
Yes. I made this. Let's see. There we go.
Yes. You made that really fast.
Right? It's Corey the Riveter. So
if I would have known, I would have put because I actually used one of my old poster artwork for the thumbnail, but I have one that's it's called Rosie. I think it's called Rosie the Riveter 2.0, but she's like a robot and she's got a riveter part arm.
Nice.
So yeah, that actually is available on my website. So
I love it. Well, this one is available everywhere. If anybody wants to buy prints, just take it. No, that's really cool. Actually, I am a little worried, Corey, because you and I are a little similar in this way, where I would be riveting everything.
Oh, 100%. I am like looking all over the place.
Yeah.
It is such a better way of fastening things than like adhesive or.
But I feel like it's going to go to an absurd extent, where like,
definitely.
It's going to be like, oh, the door's kind of broken. You're like, let me just rivet it. It's like, you
rivet
don't rivet the door. That's awesome, though.
It's pretty great.
That's really cool. Okay. So you can check out my stuff by picking up Jacob's Apartment and Two Stories, the two graphic novels that I have out. And I am going to be back to cartooning, which will tie into our topic and stuff like that. I have had way too much time away from that. So you will be catching streams on my YouTube, Joshua Kemble, again. So hopefully almost like every night, hopefully. So yeah, that's my stuffs.
All right. So we'll jump into it.
We're gonna pull up Chase's comment. It should be a riveting discussion with this topic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm gonna see if I can find.
See, I wish I knew all this because we could have just worked all this into the title and thumbnail. And
I know I could have erased out the Rosie the Riveter and given that as a blank PNG, so Corey could, in live fashion, talk.
That's funny. You guys keep going. I'm gonna pull up.
Okay, before we get into it, there is a weird factoid, Corey Kerr, that I think you're going to get a kick out of that I literally heard today. And this is one of the fun things about working around educators is they have just bizarre facts that you would never know.
Right.
Is this a video of the riveting?
This is a video of a yet to be edited riveting video. Yeah.
A very riveting video.
It'll be a riveting video. I don't know whether it'll be engaging, but it'll be riveting.
Okay. While you're showing this engaging video, Corey.
It's like a manual thing. I for some reason I figured it was electronic or air.
Yeah,
powered.
I thought it was like a rivet gun or something. So.
Yeah, it's not like it's like one that you get at like Harbor Freight. It's not like a really expensive one.
So do you put in like is it like a blank you kind of put in on each side? And then
I've got some footage of that too. Let me see if
I had this. I guess it wasn't a riveter gun, but it was like a grommet thing, and it was just basically you put these grommets on, and there's like a little tool, and you hit it with a hammer. But
yeah,
that's awesome. And if I had time, I'd make a little meme of Scott and Wallace.
Yes,
I've had that. So this is the pin, right? The thing. Thing I'm holding there, and so. Let me rewind. So like the thicker part of that goes through the hole, and there's that
Yeah.
little knob on the left, and that's attached to the pin that's coming out on the right.
Hmm.
And so the gun or whatever that thing is called, it grabs that pin, and as it pulls, the thicker part of that shaft inverts and then breaks, and so it expands out, and basically like you just put it, you put it through, and so it just expands and it traps itself on either side.
Huh.
Wow.
So it's
Dude,
kind of
that's-
cool. So it's just like that, and then that part just pops out.
That's
That
cool.
is cool.
Yeah. So anyway, kind of fun. Sorry,
So
go ahead.
Corey-
What is your factoid?
No. This is a factoid I think you'll enjoy. During World War II, did you know that they literally airdropped full scale pianos to U.S. troops that were manufactured by like Steinberg, and they did like
Really?
2,000 piano drops from the air. So there's somewhere there's got to be someone out there working on a World War II movie where you could have footage during wartime of there's battle airplanes flying through the sky and stuff, and then there's just pianos dropping from the sky with
That
parachutes.
seems like a ridiculously expensive thing to drop from the
Yep.
And
they're
why?
heavy.
I guess-
Morale, I guess. And so I was told this.
Oh, they didn't
And
drop them as they didn't drop them as like arsenal.
No, not like a weapon.
Oh, yeah. This
That's
is Looney
instantly
Tunes.
what I thought too.
because I thought
the
they'd be like
cartoon
just
piano
just
drop.
strafing enemy bases, dropping grand pianos out there,
Yeah,
hoping
Chase
they
said-
hit somebody.
Yeah, Chase said that sounds like Acme antics.
Right? Yeah. Like
Yeah, it totally does.
General
But-
Wiley is the one who's behind that battle plan.
So you guys, if we ever work on a World War II story, it should be the soldier who was stationed, and he was really concerned about being like killed in the war and stuff like that by the enemy, and then he tragically dies by a piano dropped by the Allies. Oh, it would be good.
So would they drop him with like parachutes?
It have
Yes.
to be. Yeah. have to
Yeah. So then that led me down this whole rabbit hole. And I found this out today, and I was like, I think that's one of those weird things I have to tell Corey about. Because
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
just super interesting.
be. Did that have anything to do with your latest Goodwill acquisition? Is that how you went down that rabbit hole?
No, it was literally, I think it might have been, maybe the coworker that was telling me this might have thought of it because I had mentioned the chord organ. So they were probably like, oh, you had an organ. I just read this thing. But that was definitely one of those ones. I definitely fact checked it too because I was like, "There's no way." And they have like pictures. At first, even the coworker had just heard the story, so we looked it up online, and we're thinking like, "Oh, they must have been like these tiny little pianos." And it's like, nope, full size pianos.
That's ridiculous.
There's like pictures online of like the troops playing them, and then I was thinking like, is that dangerous? Because like a piano is a kind of loud instrument. Like, are you kind of
Yeah.
letting people know where you're at?
It's not super covert.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Oh yeah, I just remembered something else. I was looking for watercolor transitions
Mm-hmm.
in After Effects, and I didn't like anything that I found, and so I started making my own kind of watercolor transitions, and so I have a bunch of these kind of different transitions. And then I got to thinking, what would Scott Circlin do with this?
I was going to say that's a product right there.
And I was like, I mean, in like an evening, I made like, I don't know, 6. They're pretty time consuming because I'm doing it in frame by frame animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they look pretty cool.
That-
And you can,
I mean, that's kind of the key is that, something that you're looking for that you can't find, if it doesn't exist, if you make it, and then the likelihood is other people will probably dig it too. So yeah, those
Yeah.
are really cool.
That is really cool. You should totally figure out a way to do like a pack.
Well, I was thinking like if I were Scott, I'd do like 60 more of them
Mhm.
over the next couple months, but I'm not. So I'll
And
probably
you'd make them customizable and then create like a downloadable font that matches.
yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna probably go for like the $10 to $15 option rather than like the $45 option. So
Yeah,
anyway, there might be a small mini pack coming out at some point in time that I think is better than most. Oh, and then I was screen recording the Fresco, like Adobe Fresco,
Okay.
to see if I could get like a Fresco version, and it actually works pretty well. So I would have to like edit this, and there's some instructions I would need to do, but like, these little transitions, they just work as like Luma. So it's just like a Photoshop mask where it's
Yeah.
white, it's visible, it's black, it's, and everything in between, is however transparent depending on
that's
how
cool.
how black it is.
Okay.
And then you
Yeah.
can just do transitions in After Effects based on a Luma mask, I think they call it, or a Luma something or other. I
I
don't know.
absolutely dig the heck out of that. Yeah, because that is a hard thing to find. I think I've looked for that
And
online
and
before,
and
and
everything's terrible.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So these are not terrible. That's my claim to fame, is I've made a not terrible thing.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I
Did
mean
did
that in some ways that kind of leads into the topic because I know, and I want to get to Josh first because he's the one that kind of brought up this topic. But I'm kind of at this point I'm just a little overwhelmed. Like what do I do? What do I focus on next? Do
hmm
I focus on more digital products? There's I had an idea for a t-shirt company, and so I just kind of like I have all these ideas, and it's just like I don't know where to begin. So it's then you're kind of like stagnant, and like
Yeah,
you're doing a little bit of each, but then it's not. So I got to plan. I got to figure out some kind of a game plan. But Josh, you brought up the topic as far as because we've been away for a little bit. Like I said, either whether it's sick or vacation
yeah,
or just life changes and things like that. So kind of getting back into the swing of things and everything. Um, I watched the beginning. You put out a live stream, so I know you're,
yeah.
you're getting back to that, which is good. So that's a step in the right direction. But I only got so far into that, so I wanted to kind of get your take on what you were thinking, kind of what struggles you're having, and I guess where you're going to go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a bit on the stream, but the gist of it is it's a little awkward to talk about because I've spent so much time talking to other people about kind of like overcoming, whatever kind of obstacles that you're facing or excuses and kind of making comics. And then the last like almost month, I'd say like 2 or 3 weeks, I have just like it started with some reasonable reasons not to be working. Like I was sick, and then I was trying a new career kind of thing, and so there's this like transition going on. And I'm sick, so it's like I'm barely able to work. And then when I get home from work, I just like crash so that I don't get more sick. And then it's like a week or so of that. And then once I got better, it's like everything was ready to rock. And I just didn't find myself working at all. And so what I just ended up doing was like a lot of watching TV, a lot of browsing, a lot of like consumption kind of stuff. And it's weird to me that happened. It's not weird to me that happened, but it was interesting that happened to me because I'm usually not the guy to do that. Um,
I'm
and so
fighting
yeah.
the urge of asking you what you watched.
Oh man, I watched so much junk. So much junk. A lot of YouTube, actually. Weirdly enough, I should have
That's
caught
funny.
up on like all the Star Wars stuff I haven't seen yet. You know,
That's
but
the worst when you actually do like give yourself a break and
yeah,
then you kind of waste it on like not great stuff.
yeah. It's like there's all this stuff I've been like I don't have the time to see, and then I ended up just meandering my time. But yeah, so I caught myself doing that, and I would have these moments where I'd go home and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna set the live stream, work on my comic. I'm gonna set the live stream, work on my comic, and then I get distracted with something, and then instantly it's like, 10 o'clock or whatever, and I'm finally free, but I'm totally exhausted, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go to sleep,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and it's like, and I was thinking about it, and I was like excusing myself, and then I was thinking, wait, what would I say to an artist in this scenario where it's like, okay, you have a book deal, you have this book you have to get done, you know, and I'm feeling like there's no time and I have no energy, and then I describe my day. What would myself say to that? And it's
Right.
like, oh, well, I have time. I'm just wasting my time and I'm not being dedicated or focused enough. So, yeah, but it's funny how that happens, and it's funny how hard it is. Like, even today, like yesterday was like the first day I worked on my comic in weeks, and it was like pulling teeth, like just to get myself to sit down. It makes me really empathetic to people going through that. Because man, it is a lot of work, especially when you fall out of the habit. You get this like good momentum, and it's like it's kind of easier to kind of continue it once you've built a good habit. But like once you get out of the habit, getting into that's like a lot of willpower. It's really annoying. I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyhow, I'll pass that around and see what you guys think about that. But yeah.
Well, Chase has a comment real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. The dynamic of recalibrating and finding my motivation again has especially been hitting me near the midway point of drawing the graphic novel. 50 plus pages of pencils gets fatiguing after a while. I often feel the need to step back and reconnect with my social life and day-to-day priorities to refresh myself creatively, because grinding nonstop can have a lot of setbacks as well. And
Yeah.
and Paul says, "I bet you just need the break, Josh. Look at it like you allowed yourself to recharge."
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of might have, but I do realize if I were to continue with the habit of the break, it would have very quickly been, yeah, I used to do comics once. Like you become that guy, or you're like, yeah, I wanted to play guitar, but I never had the time, or I wanted to blah, blah, blah. And I am like, I'm ethically opposed to that. Like, I'm ethically opposed to becoming that guy. As
Just
much as like, I don't judge it as much because it's like, it's super hard to not become that. I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes sense.
just
Yeah.
Oh,
to
sure.
put this into perspective, Josh, when is the last? How long ago was it that you worked on your comic?
Like 3 weeks ago,
Three
prior to
weeks.
yesterday. And then
Yeah,
yesterday I finally got over the hurdle and did it. So I'd say it's probably about a total of a little close to 3 weeks.
yeah. So that's not too long, all things considered.
But to me, it's really
Yeah.
long,
No, I
especially
know.
when
I
I
get
have a
it.
book deadline. I
Yeah.
can't afford 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get it.
um, but yeah, I guess the thing that surprised me is how easy it was
Yeah.
to stop, and how tempting it was, and how your mind quickly kind of convinces you, like, yeah, you never really wanted to do that thing. You know what I mean? I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if it
Well,
makes sense.
downhill's always easier than uphill. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there. I mean, like, because you like Stephen Pressfield, like a lot of people. Why can I always? I'm always blanking her name. She wrote Eat, Play, Love and Big Magic. Anyway, they all kind of talk about this idea of like, it's always a struggle to move upward. It is never a struggle to move downward. Like positive, positive things in the world are always much more difficult to do than
Yeah.
destructive things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was even thinking about that yesterday, where it's amazing how, like, yeah, it's hard to build something, it's easy to burn things. And it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
but if you actually like subtly start burning things, you don't realize you're doing it, but you're like, hey, this is nice and easy. It's kind of like after a while you're like kind of surrounded by flames, and you're like, huh, this is easy. Um and and that's what I was kind of realizing, was like, wow, I could this could be really long if I don't just buckle down and like force myself to do this. And even
Um,
in forcing myself to do it, it just took like hours and hours just to like get over all this stupid resistance, you know, where it's like there's all the stuff that comes up. Everything is more important, you know.
I have to step out for a minute. I will be back momentarily, but you guys keep going.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was just thinking how you're on a roll, you're drawing daily and all that, and all it takes really almost is like 1 or 2 days, and one day begets another day and another day. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I missed one day. That's all right if I miss two. That's how, and then you totally get out of that cycle. But the good thing is you've done it before, so it's just a matter of kind of getting back into it, and that's kind of where. I mean, at least I guess in your scenario, Josh, I mean, you know what you have to do.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
me, it's like, I don't exactly know. I was so focused on, my YouTube videos and everything. And it's just, those weren't, the amount of time I was putting into it, like, okay, I've got to kind of, I guess I have to scale back and maybe not put out as many videos because they take so long, or reevaluate everything. And what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to figure out a way to do them more efficiently, so I can put content out and then, but do something quality, but not spend 40 hours or plus or something on particular video that it's just not, it's not realistic to spend that much time on something that,
Yeah.
if it was building on something, that's something, but then I'm thinking, well, what are the different options? Do I focus on marketing? Focus on marketing what I already have, because those videos are already complete. I could either kind of chop them up and or take stills from it and post it on different social media and try to get people to the content that way. I could post it on Reddit and go and find different groups and focus more on marketing. And that's kind of my thing, is because I'll do something and I'll put it out there, and I've got all this stuff that's out there, and some of it does well, some of it doesn't. But if it doesn't do well, I almost like kind of in some ways sort of abandon it. Like, I put it out there, didn't do well, but there's no reason why. I mean, it's complete. So why focus on something new when that's already done, and I could push people to that? But I'm just so bad, I guess, on the marketing part of it, so that's one option. The other thing is, like I said, start something new. Maybe this next thing will, like I said, I've got this idea for a t-shirt company. And that's a hard area to go into, to make money doing t-shirts, but it's kind of a unique idea that I don't think anyone else is doing, but I think it could do well, and it also has something to do with the kind of content I'm doing on YouTube, so I can work it into that. I mean, there's, I don't know what else, there's so many different digital products. I mean, those do pretty well for me. I haven't really done one in a while. So actually right now I'm working on something for a new one, but I just don't know how much time to spend on each particular thing or what to focus on. Cause when you're in a position right now, I'm in a position where, I need to bring in some income, and as a solopreneur type thing, what's the, I guess, fastest way or best way to do that, so I don't know. That's kind of where I am right now. It's just, and because there's so many different options, I can't decide
it's like
on
option
one.
paralysis.
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced that, where you kind of like you've got a spreading bunch of forks in the road or whatever, and you kind of have to pick, and you end up stuck at the pass, because you're like, I don't know where. I don't know which one of these is the best one to do,
Yeah, because when you have something that you're putting time into and it's doing well, then it's like, oh, I just, I'm going to focus on that. This is doing well. But when you're not in that position, it's kind of like, well, what should I focus on first? It's almost like a triage thing.
It's more,
I've got so many different ideas, but some of them would take longer. Do I focus on something that can have like immediate payoff? So I do have some comic work that I'm working on that seems like as long as it continues,
Yeah.
that'll at least put me in a better position. So maybe I won't be stressed out about that, but it's just, there's just a lot to think about. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that, yeah, I don't know. I've been there.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Because it is one of those things where I think the only way out of it is to kind of analyze your options, you know, of what's most feasible at the time. And and if you have like 2 or 3 things, you just kind of have to. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. Like it's easier said than done, but I think you almost have to like pick one and just go with it and get into it.
Or I know
if it fails, it fails. If it succeeds,
I know what I need to do. I just haven't done it yet, and that's create like we call it in the transformational leadership that I did, we call it a gap map. It stands for goals and promises. So you basically you set out like it could be 3 months or 6 months and set out your goals and everything and each step that you're going to do to achieve those. So I could pick like 2 or 3 different things, and then it's a matter of just like, okay. And I really envy the people that have like, there's like, okay, Tuesday's my day to do this and Wednesday's my day to do that. I found that very difficult to do, but maybe I could. I mean, it works. I mean, it's working with the comic. Like, I just like, the kind of the 100 days type deal. But I've sort of been working on the comic about an hour a day, but it's infrequent because my schedule now is kind of all messed up. So I used to do that first thing. So now I kind of put it aside. And if you don't do something at a certain time, it's really hard to fit things in, so it really I'm not doing it as much. So I don't know. I've just got I have to kind of figure out, more of a structure and
that ties into something that I think is going to help for me, because I had a similar kind of shift in things recently, and so there's a lot of changes and adaptation and like scrambling and figuring things out. Right. And one of the reasons I think I was kind of putting off, the comic was the fact that I hadn't really set reset and been like, okay, this is my work time. This is when I need to like sit down every day and work on this thing. So now I kind of have a rough estimate of like 9. That's going to be my aim. So it's going to be nights again.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of try to go for like 30 minutes to an hour. And then that'll usually become 2 hours, but I think that'll work. And I do agree. I think like a lot of the time just setting out a goal of like if you have 4 things and none of them seem like the most sort of wise thing to pursue, but they're all equal. You can, like maybe Tuesday is your, whatever day. And then Wednesday is the, whatever the other thing is day. You can kind of switch hats that way. Or it's always hard. It's always hard because you also don't want to do too much scattershot, right?
Yeah. I like that in theory, but I've never been able to make that work because things come up and then it's like, something comes up on a Tuesday and then it's like, oh, that was the day I was going to work on this. Cause like with the videos, I'm working on a video right now. And again, I'm trying to I recorded stuff for kind of 2 videos. At first it was just going to be one. I'm like, this is going to be super long. If I could probably cut this in half. So now I'm like, that's intriguing to me. Cause I'm like, okay, now I can probably get 2 videos out of this, which is cool. And that's kind of what I want to do. But it's just like because you have, when you do these videos, not only do you have to do the project and record the project,
the edit,
then you have to do the other like the like explaining what you're doing, and then you got to edit it all together. So it's just like
voiceovers, edit, soundtrack,
and then I'm already so far behind.
Even the video upload is annoying,
and I've been doing like a video a week because I would do like the high edited one when I had a buffer.
Yeah.
And then I do like a live stream. But now it's been like maybe 2 or 3 weeks because I went on vacation and everything that I haven't put out any videos at all. And I feel like I owe it to people, but it's not like people are like, but that's kind of in my head because people aren't like knocking down my door saying, oh, where's that video? Where's that video?
that's your tool for keeping on it, you know,
Yeah.
is keeping that in mind, that there are people expecting it. And there probably are a couple people, you know, like, I mean, you have a following, so there's
Yeah.
people probably looking forward to the next one. But you know, even exaggerating that isn't a bad habit, because that'll keep you consistent with it, you
Yeah.
know. I don't think you're exaggerating it though, because like you do have a decent following. It, if you do a day for video editing, I know you probably that would probably won't work, but if you do, you should make it Wednesday, so it could be Video Wednesday.
Video what?
Video
Oh
Wednesday,
god.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Gary was saying that's why I just won't even consider edited videos when I'm drawing a comic. Yeah, editing
Yeah.
videos, man, and the level that you've been doing is like
I get
intense.
I mean, and I love the way I love it when they're done, and I love the
Yeah,
process of doing them,
yeah,
but I can't justify doing them if there's no if you know, if there's not getting any kind of results or anything like that,
yeah,
you know, at least from the metrics that I'm looking at. So I you know, I watch some of these people that, you know, and a lot of it's good content, but it's very simple. Like a good one, I mean, an excellent example would be like cartoonist kayfabe,
yeah,
because they can just take one day out of their week,
yeah,
sit down in front of a camera,
yep,
record the whole week episode, put out a video, and then with sort of minimal editing, because
yeah,
they're good at what I mean, not everyone could do that because they're good at talking about comics and they know their stuff.
yeah,
But the the amount of time that goes into it versus kind of what I'm doing, I
yeah.
mean, man, if I could do something like that and have it still be, you know, I mean, I mean, they've kind of got it down to a science, and it's kind of, I look at that and like, yeah, I mean, just to be able to do all that one day, and then I don't know how long it takes them to edit it. Maybe wouldn't even think a day. So a couple of days out of the week, and allow them
Yeah,
to.
and honestly, they might even have, you know, assistants that edit it
It's
at this
possible,
point,
yeah,
you
it's
know.
possible.
Yeah,
But you know, and so stuff like that. I mean, it's definitely working smarter, not harder.
yeah.
Um, but then again, I mean, I kind of love what I'm doing. If I
I
could figure
love
out
the
a way to,
result. Yeah.
but you know, or maybe it's a little bit of both and see what works. You know, maybe
Hmm.
it's me just pulling up, you know, talking about some, you know, I did a couple videos where I did some countdowns, because I did put this information, like I would do when I put out a video. If I was talking about like monster cereals or something like that, I would put out a newsletter. Like, so I did a newsletter on the top monster cereal prizes. So I just took that same information and did some videos out of it, and they, you know, they didn't perform great, but it's still content. But maybe there's something along with, you know, if I could put one of these highly edited videos out a month or something like that, and then if I could do some other content that kind of goes with it, I don't know,
Yeah.
and see what happens, you know, because I have a feeling that once, if I could get something to hit, then it at least give me a direction to kind of go into. Because I think if I can build an audience around what I'm doing,
Yeah.
like even if I scale back and didn't do as highly edited videos,
Yeah.
I think they would still like that stuff. It just, I've got to get them there first, and then I
Yeah.
can start upping up the, you know, production value again. So I don't know. There's just so many different ways that I can go about it.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, and it is tough because like you know, I think it's important to dream and shoot for this, you know, swing for the fences and stuff like that. But there are definitely times where sometimes like you have to kind of measure like what is feasible, and you know, so it's like um if it is feasible and it's more possible without kind of killing you to do it once a month, and you're still able to make good content for
Yeah.
that and then provide other content, that might be the route to go. That's just what it really requires is like, yeah, yeah, you got a bit of hard work there where you probably need to just sit down. You might have already started, but it's like sit down, make a list, write out
I
your
haven't yet. I
objective.
need to. I mean, I've got a
Yeah,
Trello board, but it's scattershot. It's just,
yeah,
I'll just throw something up there. There's no timeline attached to anything. There's
yeah,
no real goal on what I'm trying to achieve. It's not broken down
yeah,
as like what steps do I need to
yeah.
create like a digital product? What are all the different pieces that I need? So
And even starting it can be pretty simple, right? Because you could list like what you're wanting to accomplish and then what the end result would look like. And then
Yeah.
write that like for each thing, and then look at those things and be like, which do I want of those things if I had to pick one now, you know? Or if I had to like eliminate one as the one that I know is probably a bad choice or something.
Yeah.
And then once you've kind of reduced it down, like then start building out from like, well, I mean, you already know, but it's like,
no, this
build
is
out
all
from
good
beginning.
because it's getting me psyched and it's giving me ideas and things. But
Yeah.
Gary's got a question. So he wants to know what my promotion is like for the videos. Am I trying to find Reddits, Facebook groups, etc.?
Yeah, Reddit is not a bad
that's
idea.
what I want to do, but I've got to get in the zone of like social media, and I don't do really anything on Reddit. I don't really know how it works exactly. So I'm worried that if I just start promoting my stuff, then people are going to be like, hey, this guy's just trying to promote stuff. But you know, if I'm in a group that's about the same stuff that I love, I think they'll be into it. There's company, I want to find. There's companies that kind of deal with like retro stuff, kind of reach out to. There's so many ideas, but I just haven't pulled the trigger on any of that. But I think that makes sense to do, because until YouTube starts pushing me, and I don't want to rely on that because it hasn't really happened yet. I've got to find a way to bring the people there. And I mean, I'm pretty sure if I like took stills of some of the projects and things I made, or shorts or whatever, reels or whatever, I could probably build something up on Instagram or like TikTok, but I don't know if I can get those people to YouTube.
So I feel like, Scott, like a good route would be, you probably have to do a lot of research for these videos anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would probably just join a couple, like you can create a Reddit account and then you can follow a couple communities or join a couple communities on Reddit that are specific to vintage stuff that you're looking at for inspiration in general. And then like that in itself would lead to some natural engagement that'll kind of build a little community there where you could be like, just commenting on stuff that you find inspiring. And it might actually have the added benefit of like killing two birds with one stone, because Reddit's full of really fascinating information as well as a lot of S lords. But it's like, it's not, so I think that's great. It is really tough though with that to like pick like because again, that would be an approach, but is that better, or is another marketing
seems like
direction?
Reddit would probably be the best, because I just saw a thing that came out as far as, I had no idea as far as the amount of traffic, as far as websites, like the number, the top trafficked websites. Reddit's like probably 3 or 4.
Oh, Reddit's huge. Yeah.
I had no idea it was that huge.
Even YouTube, a lot of the bigger streamers are people who have really successful Reddits that are moderated attached to their streams. So, but the other thing about Reddit that's interesting, and I think kind of would serve what you're looking for, I think, is the fact that like if I'm looking at, like, I'm really into guitar stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I found out that weird piano thing today, and that sent me on a different rabbit hole, because at lunch I'm like looking this up. And in the same article where they're talking about this piano thing, they mentioned that Gibson like used to make like munitions. And I was like, what? Like the guitar company? And so then I found out they started using the Gibson guitar factories to like make weapons and stuff like that. Right. But I'm finding all of that stuff about Gibson and stuff, that was all through Reddit. Like a lot of that was through Reddit discussions. Because anytime you have weird guitar related stuff,
I mean,
it's so niche that Reddit has the guy who's like, I need to find a 1942 whatever model of this guitar. Has anyone seen that? And there's a community for it. And it's like, that's where you need to target if you're doing like retro and vintage stuff, I would think.
And my experience with Reddit is mostly me doing searches and finding Reddit threads and finding information. And a lot of those are, like you said, people are searching for a certain thing. And a lot of those are from a long time ago, and people are still either looking for answers or have found the answers, and people still go in there. So it seems very evergreen, which I think my content is, because it's nostalgia and that's not going.
Oh, did I lose you? I lost Scott. I'm gonna if you guys are seeing me and not Scott, I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and check if Scott is here. I think it cut out. So how are you guys doing? It is literally a solo stream right now, unless I'm like totally frozen or something. Interesting. Yeah. Gary was saying, oh, yep, Scott's gone. So we've lost Scott and Corey is indisposed. So let me message Scott real quick. Scott, you okay? I think you might be back. Let's find out.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay,
Back. You know what it was? It was the YouTube. It was shadow banning.
Yeah. I have no idea, but so anyway, so like the video I'm working on right now, it's like designing kind of retro trading cards, the one I'm working on, but I picked certain things to do the trading cards of, and I won't mention what those are, but it was going to be like 5 in a video, and I cut it up so there'll be probably like 3 in a video.
Yeah.
And each one of those things that I'm doing would have a specific probably Reddit group for it. So that's one video that I could probably go into like 3 different niches and bring people. So yeah, that's something I got to look into. And also like Facebook groups and things like that. But I don't want to go in and just drop my stuff. These are things that I want to participate. I've just been really bad about keeping on top of that stuff. So
yeah, I feel like, you know what? Step 1 to that would be just set up a Reddit account and start.
I did that. Yeah, I did that.
And just start joining interesting Reddits that are like somewhat related to retro as well as that, and then start being frank. You know, because I feel like Frank we had him on to talk about that, but he's really good at like joining.
Oh, at first I thought you meant just being frank, like the phrase.
No, I mean like being Frank Salazar, right? Like,
he is really
good at being active in communities, and then just naturally people want to support him because it's like, dude, we all love Frank, in the Artcasters community. So I feel like that's a good model to like, yeah. But it is tough. It's that tough balance, right? Because it's like the thing that you're struggling with. I empathize a lot, and I constantly am weighing too, because it's that there's immediate reward that is sometimes not needed, and then there's needed immediate reward, which is like, the sustenance stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then there's long-term rewards that are worth it. And then there's like blind chases. And the difference between the two gets really blurry sometimes. And so it's hard to navigate a little bit. But I don't think you're making good videos. So that's good. You're not delusional. That's good. So I think your goal of like finding the like mapping that to people who would be into it, I think is pretty reasonable. Because like if the content were good, I'd be like, Scott, you're on a wild goose chase, but right. It's like, it's good content and it's entertaining, so that's it. But it's always hard to kind of navigate and know where to kind of put your resources,
I think I also should probably start diving into some like books on either unconventional like guerrilla marketing or just different ways to like clever ways to market stuff, or just I feel like I'm very comfortable talking about my own stuff and all that, but I like I said, I just don't think I put as much focus on the marketing, and I think I could be a lot better at it. So that's probably what I need to focus on.
Oh man, if you could be, I mean, this is insane, but if you could be like a month ahead, and then at the end of every video have like a next week on, and have, some
I kind of was at one point, cuts. But it's just
but yeah, no, it's really hard. I do think like a more organic targeted marketing, but I will tell you this, any marketing is better than none. So like, even if you start with just one Reddit group or something, you know, it's not going to hurt. You're not going to end up in a worse position. So it's
Yeah.
like I pick one or two that sound good and then hit those hard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then be ready to pivot if need be, you
Yeah.
know? That's tough though. Again, it's tough because it's like, even with marketing, this is always a struggle for me. I hate desperate marketing, you know? I just
Mhm.
like personally, I don't like it. But also I've been in a position where you're marketing and you're desperate, you know, like, so it's like, and no one wants to buy that, like, desperate. So it's like, how do you convey, um, I'm just talking for myself, but it's like, how do I convey, like, I need to sell this product, but also like in a way of like, it's good. Like this isn't just like a on the side of the road, like, hey man, buy this watch. I need, you know, it's like a real good thing. That's always a really hard one to navigate too. And I think all of us as artists have to, because of course artists need to kind of sell their art. Like a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Um, and it's that weird balance of like, well, we all need to sell our art, but we also need to look like we don't need to. Like it's really a weird, tricky thing. Similar to like, you know, like you want to be able to just go on Reddit and just spam your stuff, and then like everyone somehow magically clicks it and it works. It just never works.
Yeah.
It's so hard to figure out the nuances of that. Yeah, but I don't think a lot of what you mentioned. It sounds like you do have a pretty clear idea of what you kind of, some paths that you could take. You know.
Yeah. It's for me. It's knowing what to do and doing it are the two totally different things. I
Yeah.
know what I need to do, but
So
why can't I?
that's where we have a lot of commonality and
Yeah.
like kind of hitting this pause and then being like, and
Yeah.
it's comfortable in the pause because it's like, well, I mean, you know, it's less risk. It's, I don't know. Oh, we got some really interesting comments.
Yeah. That's
Creed said it's super hard to know whether or not uh, leaning in harder will start off the success you want, or if it's a chasm that'll just eat your
oh yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Figuring out a cutoff point
Yeah.
is tricky, right? Because you don't want to sell yourself short, but you also, again, don't want to just be like kicking a dead horse, you know, like,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and there's also that thing where you hear so many stories about, I was just about to give up and I gave it one more shot and then something
yeah,
takes off. And you never know when that, if that's right around the corner or not. So it's
yeah,
and then there's I was listening to this guy. There's a guy that does YouTube videos. He's a designer and he gets like millions of views on his videos.
yeah,
His name's Brandon Shepard, I think, and he'll take basically he'll like take something like I'll take a simple logo design and I'll overcomplicate it, or he'll do the reverse, like complicated logos and simplify them, but he
yeah,
takes you through the whole thing and everything, and it's humorous and it's very highly edited and it looks great. But he was kind of in that position. I listened to an interview with him and he was saying how he was kind of in that position where he's doing all this work and then finally he just kind of stepped back and it was like too much. And then all of a sudden he went back and his videos started to pick up speed. And then he went back and now he's making like millions of views of video,
yeah.
which I mean, most of the videos that I have on my channel, I don't think I've ever had a video that I put out that like right out the gate, like got a lot of views.
Yeah,
Most of them, like over time, they catch on because they're kind of
yeah,
evergreen, especially like because I had this same feeling when I was doing although there wasn't as much time going into it, but there was
yeah,
some with Making Comics 101,
yep,
where I put it out there and I'm like, okay, well, I'll put out a few of these and then people say, oh, this is a series. And with that one, it's like, oh, I'm going to follow this thing.
yeah,
So I was hoping that thing would just kind of blow up out the gate, and it didn't. But now most of those videos have thousands of views on them, and they're continuing to
yeah,
grow. And those are some of my most viewed videos, especially as a series. But it took a while for that to catch on. So
yeah,
I think it's kind of the same thing. But I don't really want to quit doing it. I mean, I
yeah.
could, but but I could see it catching on, one of those videos just catching on later. The other thing you can do is just keep tweaking titles and thumbnails on the videos you already have. And I've heard that where somebody just changed the title and the thumbnail, and all of a sudden the video just started doing really well. So, that probably is another strategy that I'll look. I've already done it a couple times. The video, most of the thumbnails and stuff I have now aren't the ones that I originally had, because I changed them and I changed some of the titles, but maybe they're not quite there yet.
Well, if I'm you, I'm going to sit down, write a list. That's going to give you visually everything, because you have a lot. And I would go through it and cull it, like cut stuff, and do it with the understanding, like, hey, this isn't cutting it forever. This is just to target, a few things. Because, even if you're doing multitasking, if you scatter too thin, it's all going to be ineffective. I think, whereas if you hit like a few targets, like, you're way more likely to like see some traction, and then you can adjust from there and kind of move towards where the traction's going. Chase said, I also need to rekindle the flame of what got me riveted. Nice. About the creative undertaking in the first place, the tedium of producing, and it can have a distancing effect that dulls the initial excitement. That's true. What I noticed, though, and my head started thinking that, and then last night I started working on my comic, and within like 10 minutes I was having fun. And it's like that whole 100 days thing, right? Where, you think you're going to hate it, and then you sit down and there's just never enough time, because you start it and it's fun. I feel like I do feel like delay, even in the scenario, I think both are scenarios, but I think Scott, delaying always creates like a little more tension about it. Whereas if you do it, it's like, then you're learning more and getting more done in the process, and like accomplishing more. So I feel like, but it is hard.
I was going to say, as far as Chase goes, I mean, he's one of those people, because we've had him on the show and everything.
Chase is
we've seen what he's
motivated.
Doing. But he's also one of those people that breaks the rule, like my number one rule that I tell younger artists, and that is to start small and do something small, then do something bigger. He's got a very ambitious project that he's put a lot of, just the planning stages, there's a lot before he even got to drawing. And normally I would tell people, don't do that. But when you look at what he's doing and you see kind of how he's doing and his passion around it, and you just know that he'll finish it. Where typically I would persuade somebody not to do that if they're a younger artist. So
and
kind of
I
the
do
exception
think
to the rule.
I think you're right, because I think occasionally there's people who, like, they have a vision and they need to see it through, and you can tell they're going to do it. But that's a hard undertaking. But that's a good example too. It's like when I was working on Jacobs, I mean, that book got shelved for like, and that was like 5 years of work or something. And that got shelved for like 5 years after it was done, mostly.
I thought it was longer than that, but
it might have been longer than that, but it got shelved for a while. And then,
because weren't you working? You were working on that when you were doing Big Illustration Party Time.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a while ago. Yeah. But it took like 5 years in the making. And then it was like, I think it was about 10 years, maybe longer. Anyhow, it was sitting just unfulfilled out there. So it felt like a waste of time, like, to be honest. I mean, I was proud of it, but it felt like, wow, I'd lost all that time. And so, sorry,
we have a question here, Salta92. I don't know if you want to address this one.
Hold on a sec. Let me. Okay. My biggest issue is that I don't have much time to work on creative projects for just myself, between school, work, family, and other things. I just run out of steam to work on personal projects. You want to tackle that, or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, my advice.
I'm passionate about that stuff.
My advice would be do the 100 days of making comics, and if you don't want to do the video part of it, at least just post. And if you're not familiar with what that is. So 100 Days of Making Comics is Kevin Cross started this challenge. Basically, you spend 30 minutes a day every day and I would advocate for doing it about the same time every single day. And so you work on your comic just for 30 minutes a day, and that starts to add up. And then to hold yourself accountable, you post about it. And I don't know where that community, if people are still doing it or not. It's kind of had its resurgences and dips and things like that. But there may still be a community around the 100 Days of Making Comics. But, I would say do that just a little bit at a time, and that'll add up. And if you build habits, I mean, you'll be, because I'm doing that myself, even with my own comic. I mean, I'm trying to do like an hour a day. And when I first started the beginning of the year, I was very consistent about that. And then when I got it all penciled, I kind of took a break. And now I'm kind of here and there. It's not every day, but I am I'm getting back to it where I'll be inking, hopefully ink an hour a day every day. And you'd be surprised. I mean, because my comic has always been a back burner project because it doesn't really bring in a lot of money, so it's not something I can just focus a ton of time on.
Yeah.
Until I run a Kickstarter or something like that. But doing it this way, I mean, this time around, and plus I also integrated this technique called the Slack method, which is Scott Loss from the Making Comics podcast kind of created. We've had him on. You can kind of search that, but it's a different. It's basically
he did it
a
like
way
in between, beating 3 guys in the wrestling ring.
Yeah. But it's a method where you work on you bounce around from pages. That you don't work linearly on your comic.
Yeah.
You work on basically what you want to. So you're always excited to work on your project. You don't get to the point where I don't really like this page, and then the idea is that you move around, and by the time you get all the stuff you like to do done, then you're so much closer to the finish line then the stuff you don't really care for as much isn't as much of a chore. So that I found that really helped. And so this time around, even though I'm working single issue comics, this one's a little bigger than the ones I did before, but it's still going a lot faster than the previous issues because I'm doing it working on it every day. 2, because I'm using this new method. So yeah, I mean, that would be my suggestion. Just you may not have a lot of time, but you'd be surprised, and you got to be honest with yourself too. And I'm sure Josh would, if he was going to answer, he'd probably go with this.
Yep.
But you got to be honest with yourself. I mean, how much things are you doing that are important? I mean, is it really, do you play any video games? Can you cut those out? Are the video games more important than your creativity?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, or watching TV or any of these other things, a lot of people, and I'm not saying I like doing that stuff too, but if those are taking precedent over the art, maybe the art's not as important as those things. So you got to kind of prioritize, and if you really analyze your day, chances are more than likely you do have time. You just have to make the time.
Yeah. Like, a good example is like my few weeks of gallivanting and not working, which is kind of weird for me. I usually am like a bit of a machine when it comes to like doing this stuff. And that's when I had to stop myself, was when I caught myself giving myself passes where I'm like, well, it was a long day at work, or like, well, like I had to hang out with my kid and now I'm tired, and it's the end of the day. So I got to just go to sleep because I'll wake up refreshed that way. And like, then, watching some YouTube videos and being like, well, I need some decompression time. Right. Which a lot of that is true. Like, it's important for me to spend time with my kid. I do need decompression time. I do need sleep. Right. But still, do I need that much of all that? No. I mean, definitely with the kid, with my son, that's non-negotiable. But everything else, it's like, no, I don't really need to go down a YouTube rabbit hole for like 10 years. And if I'm going to do a YouTube rabbit hole, I should be doing it while I'm working.
Yeah. Most of the videos I watch are while I'm drawing or whatever, or listen to, so.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it is one of those things where everything is hard to do for personal projects as on top of the day job. And Scott and I can both attest to this. It doesn't get easier with a creative job either. Like, cause when you have a creative career, you're still going to be short on time. That's kind of why Kevin came up with the 100 days in the first place. Right. Cause he was struggling to find time for his personal work, you know? So yeah.
And sometimes I've heard this isn't necessarily the case with me when I've had creative day jobs,
Yeah.
but some people find that if they do have a creative day job, then they've spent their creativity and they're not looking forward to going home and being creative. So for some people, a job that's not creative is
Yeah.
ideal, and then you kind of have then you
Yep.
really get
Harvey
to focus
Picard.
on all your creativity on your projects. So.
I mean, Harvey Picard worked for what, like UPS or something for like 40 years, and then he'd just work on scripts like during his job. It's like, and he's one of the most like, you know, famous writers in indie comics, and he's one of the best writers in indie comics too. So it's like it's you know, it's for each person to kind of navigate. But if you catch yourself like me making excuses and you deep down know they're excuses and you find yourself getting in a rut, you know, here's one of the reasons I wanted to even talk about this. I started feeling like I did before I went to art school. And I remember before I went to art school, you know, I've told you guys this story where I was working at a graveyard shifts at AM PM and just kind of playing music around and stuff, and had just like left college for a bit. And it just became like a year, and then it became longer. And until I got robbed at gunpoint at that store, I didn't really have a wake up call of like, I should probably actually get my degree and actually do the comics I want to do and stuff like that. And it's like, I shouldn't require at this point in my life getting robbed at gunpoint to figure that out. Like it's one of those things of like, yeah, but what I'm saying is like, I will catch myself reverting to that old me that would just kind of make excuses and like, you know, prioritize time that probably isn't really high priority. Like, I'm going to watch this show, you know? Because at the end of the day, like when you get older, there's so many shows, you know? There's so many good shows. There's so many like trendy shows that are just now. I don't know. It's anyhow, I'm rambling, but
I'm finding lately that watching not great shows is a super good way to stay focused
it's
on
yeah.
production. So like Suits, I don't know if you've seen Suits, but there's like
We just
there's
finished.
like
Well, we didn't
okay.
finish it, but we got pretty far.
There's like 9 seasons of it, and the first 8 seasons of it, like it's the same problem every episode. It is the easiest show to ignore. Anyway, I've gotten a ton done because that show is boring.
I like that. That's actually a good tip. Just pick something that's really formulaic, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you need something on in the background, you know.
Gary said obviously there are exceptions, but I think almost everyone can carve out 30 to 60 minutes a day for art. It really and truly is just making the decision. Another thing that keeps me motivated, and I'm kind of speaking to myself and all of us like who are going through this, but another thing that keeps me in it, like, and makes me get back to it, is remembering that all the dudes I admire spend about 16 hours a day working on art. All of the guys I admire, like the big guys. And they're guys who make so much money, they don't even need to make art anymore. They could just retire. They've made their mark in history, you know, like, and yet they're still doing that, you know. Or, you know, I have my George Harriman tattoo that's on my arm to remind me of that, because it's like the guy who made Crazy Cat, you know, up into his dying day. He had like the last, you know, 2 months worth of strips on his art table that he died at. You know, I want to go out like that. I don't want to go out being the old man who's like, I used to think about drawing stuff. Like, I don't like that, you know? Yeah. Yeah, and my was saying I'm not far from. Yeah, this graphic novel might very well kill me. My wife's job is to keep me alive at the desk. But yeah, Salsa said I survive on energy drinks and pure grit. That works when you're young, man, but you got to start coming up with other strategies.
You'll pay for that in your 40s.
Yeah, or it's like, it's weird. You can almost get away with it, and then yeah, when you're 40, you try that, and you're like, you're paying for that night of stuff for like 4 weeks. You know, I had a chorizo burrito today that I'm still paying for, and it was worth it. But Salsa said, I work at a restaurant in town, and I'm also starting a social media marketing company. So I'm being creative, which is nice, but I'm missing out on these personal projects. Well, I mean, starting a social media company sounds like a personal project to me. Keeman said, personally, I like doing other things too, but when it comes to doing my comic creative projects and doing other activities, my comic would definitely have more priority. I like that. Yeah, that's the thing. We, like Scott was talking about, it's like triaging is a challenge. You know who's pretty good at triaging? Corey Kerr. Corey, you have any tips for Scott on his triage?
Are we talking? Are we talking
Well, he
emergency
wasn't
room
here.
triage?
Well,
I'm
he's
really good
finding
at.
himself at that tough impasse where he knows a lot of things that he could be working on that would benefit, and he's having trouble picking between them because
Yeah,
they're all potentially good things, you know.
I weigh two things when I'm trying to do that, and one is kind of the amount of expected return. So it's all like ROI, right? And that which doesn't have to be cash, but it can be cash. And the one side of it is the volume. The other side of it is the speed, right? And so like if I can turn something for a little bit of return quickly and repeatedly, sometimes you actually end up making more in a volume than you can on a big volume thing, but has more of a long tail to it.
Yeah.
But what I'll typically do in those types of situations, which I've kind of been in, because I typically only take on like sometimes 2 or 3 clients a year, and I've had 4 clients for the past like 6 weeks. And so it's like, it's a very and I don't take on many clients, and usually the clients that I take on are a little bit of a bigger project. But anyway, in that I've had to say like this is something where I can get X amount of money in 72 hours. This is something where I can get, maybe 10 times that much, but it's going to take me 6 weeks. And so it kind of depends on the situation of like, do I need that quick hit, either motivationally or financially or whatever, to like supplement the time that I'm going to have to wait to get that longer tail project. And oftentimes if I don't, I'll take the longer tail one just because the day job has kind of got my bills paid. But there are situations like I've had a lot of hospital bills in the last 2 years and stuff. And so there's situations where I'm like, I need the cash now because the wolves are at the door. And so I'll stack a couple of those smaller ones. But the third thing to take is kind of like risk, like some stuff is like a sure bet, a client that you've worked with before, and they've paid you half down, there's very little,
like those long-term clients, who like they can almost give you the brief and they're good for it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the other stuff where it's like we'll take my watercolor transitions. I can't remember if I was saying that on the air or off the air, but so my watercolor.
Yeah, I think it was on.
I think it was on, right? So that's a shot in the dark, or another t-shirt design. Like I don't move a lot of t-shirt designs, but like every one of those is a, it's a week's worth of free time work. And so every one of those is a bit of a risk, but if I think one of them could pay off, or a handful of them could pay off, or maybe they all start taking off if one of them hits or something. Yeah. But that's kind of like a long tail strategy where I'm like building that up and kind of doing that. Yeah. So I don't know. I would kind of weigh those types of things. And then
that's actually a really good, it's funny. It's reminding me of finances in a weird way where it's like, so you need to make sure that you have your basic needs met, right?
Right. Yeah.
But if while you're getting your basic needs met, you can be putting a tiny bit that barely hurts,
Mm-hmm.
every day into like a savings account that you don't touch, then
Right.
you're going to be in a pretty good scenario. If you start getting good at that, then you start kind of doing a little bit on the longer term investments, right? If you
Yeah.
put all your house on an invest, like everything you got on like a long term investment, you're, you know, your
It
gam
could it could
could
pay
be
off.
big,
It
but
could pay off, but you might starve to death before you get to the payoff.
yeah, or it
Yeah.
could just completely
Or
backfire, and
or
it's
or something happens where it doesn't work. Yeah.
and
And
you don't
so
have a redundancy built in to back up on the chance that it doesn't. So it's, I think, anyhow, what Corey's talking about is, yeah. Anyhow, continue, Corey. It's
well,
just reminding me of
yeah,
that.
I was just going to say I like that, Josh. I like that analogy of finances because cash flow is one of the things that kills businesses the fastest, and
Yeah,
it's not necessarily cash, it's the flow of cash, right? So you kind of have that, and I do that with motivation all the time with creative projects.
yeah,
I'm probably, compared to the two of you, the most easily distracted and easily demotivated of the three of us, and so I've had to gamify the system where it's like, if I have a long-term project that's going to take me 2 months, I might do 2.5 months,
yeah,
just because I need to interject some short-term wins in there where I can take a day or two and just knock something out, get something done, and get that kind of completion motivation, and then roll that back into the bigger project,
yeah,
because I really struggle. I really struggle for on things that last longer than 5 or 6 weeks. And it's hard for me to stay
yeah,
focused, but I can really hyperfixate for like 72-hour periods. And
yep,
so anyway, so that type of thing where you've got like a business, right? If you only focus on the like bread and butter stuff, and you never have those like shoot for the moon, swing for the fences things, you don't grow.
yeah,
You can maintain that, but like honestly, the first time you hit a valley, a drought, the tap turns off,
yeah,
like that can end you, right? Because
yeah.
you're
Because
basically
there's
day to
no
day.
innovation or
Yeah.
risk. Yeah,
But
uh,
but but without that, like we were saying before, if you're only swinging for the fences, you're likely to strike out
yep.
so many times that you
And
lose the
then you
game
just
before you hit
join
a
all
home
the
run.
LA startups that come and go
Yeah,
every
right.
every year. They promise the moon and then they disappear. Um, that's a really apt. That's starting to kind of put it together for me. I think hearing about this, at least Scott, I want to hear your thoughts too. But my thought is like, at least in your scenario, Scott, with the marketing stuff for your YouTube channel,
Hmm.
because I know that's some of the stuff you're kind of figuring or sitting on.
Yeah.
That stuff, have you tried to do like 100 days of making comics with that, where it's like 30 minutes a day,
Oh,
10 minutes on Reddit, 10 minutes on this, like whatever it is,
yeah.
break
That's
it.
what I have to work into my gap map.
That's
with
what I
my
would do with your marketing, right?
yeah
And maybe that's an allotted hour a day. Like
yeah
do 1 hour of marketing, whether it's at 1 a.m. or whatever. It's like there's the hour of marketing, and then you kind of move, like everything else can kind of fall into place, like triaging it.
yeah.
But a lot of those marketing things like could be, especially the Reddit thing and things like that, where you're trying to build community marketing. It's
Hmm.
like that stuff. If you do like a daily investment, that might pay off in spades. Salta said little victories carry you to the finish line. That you have to celebrate little victories too, because you're going to face a lot of failures and a lot of hurdles, in this creative path we're all on. Um, Occasionally the valley to Mordor looks pretty daunting. you know. Uh,
Well, and when you talk about finish lines and valleys and hills and stuff, I don't know. I used to do. I mean, I guess I can still, but I don't do it as much. But I used to do these 50 to 80 mile hikes, like in the high Sierras. You do it over like 9 to 12 days or whatever. Now that I'm a little bit older, the most recent one I've done is in a canoe, which is way easier than carrying everything on your back is carrying everything in a boat. But anyway, like I remember, doing like the John Muir Trail or those kind of things. Like we summited Whitney a number of years ago, like the backside, not the front side. The front side you can do in a day. The backside's like a 60-mile kind of 9-day hike in.
Okay,
And
so I'll do the front side, and you stick to your crazy one.
but but the interesting thing is they'll have these little saddles, and your trail's going up into this little saddle, and you're like, oh, there we are, and you shoot for it, right? And so you fixate on that thing. Like I'm not going to take a break until I get to that pile of rocks, or I get to that saddle,
Yeah.
and you think you're done. You're like, we're getting to this particular peak today, or whatever. And you hit that saddle, and you realize that saddle has been masking a bigger saddle behind it.
Yeah.
But you had something to focus on that was doable, and had you seen like the 4 saddles ahead of you, it might just be like daunting and just be like, I don't know. So it's like taking those longer journeys, but like breaking it up into milestones that are achievable in shorter periods of time. Like Josh, you do when you were doing the day job thing and 2 stories, you're like a panel a day. Like that's like a saddle, right? It's not like the page is done or the book is done, but like,
and if you think about the book, you'll get like paralyzed.
Yeah, but but it's something achievable. Like it's a thing that I can do to that today.
Yep.
Like that's a doable goal.
So that ties into what we're all talking about, because it's like it's a matter of you kind of have your start, your hope for your finish. You look at those things, then you break it down, back plan it, right? And then you don't have to worry about it. You just do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. If there's 500 steps,
That's why I do single issues instead of just focusing on the graphic novel.
Yeah, whereas I'm a lunatic and I just focus on graphic novels. And then I'm like, oh, I'll do something short next. And then I'm like, no, I need to do another graphic novel. So, yeah. Welcome to hell, fellow graphic novelists and cartoonists. But the road there is paved with milestones, okay?
The road to hell is paved with milestones.
But I think that's really exciting. By the way, Corey, that looks beautiful.
Yeah, you remember Kathy?
Yeah,
that did 48
so
art. Yeah, it's so fun to work with Kathy's paintings because she's just an incredible artist.
Yeah, and she's a real like just a force of nature, like in a good way.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's great. Yeah, this has been a really fun project. I'm excited to kind of show everybody.
Yeah,
because it's a lot of like I don't often animate other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. I think I've only done that 1 or 2 other times. I did Jim's, and then I've done yours, Josh. I think that might and Scott. Yeah, I did. I think that might be it. I'm trying to think of any other times I've animated.
It technically wasn't my project, but
it was your artwork.
Yeah, that's
right. That's what I'm saying is where I normally am the illustrator and animator.
Yeah.
But it's fun to work with other people's stuff sometimes because it's a lot less work.
I think collaboration when it comes to animation and stuff is good. Although, man, I gotta say, those little snippets of full fungus that Jim's been sharing are pretty exciting. I have no idea how crazy this one is, but it looks like he's doubling down.
He's going to full fungus.
Yeah, he's going to full fungus on it.
I'll tell you without any spoilers that Malia, my wife, recorded a bunch of lines yesterday for her character in that, and that is going to be a hilarious movie.
Yeah.
Like,
so he didn't make a funny movie. You make such serious documentaries.
His stuff is funny, but like this is like just listening to the scenarios and the lines that she's delivering, even without even seeing anything or knowing really what's going on. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. So Jim just told me today, I assume he's okay with me mentioning this, but because he shares this process, but he wants me to do a voice. And I've been just sitting back patiently waiting for him to ask me to do a voice because I think everyone else here has already done one.
Yeah.
I'm like, why isn't Jim asking me to do a voice? But I'm not going to Jim, when do I get to be a voice? So I'm just going to sit back and eventually something will come up.
Like, it will come. I won't just be a T-shirt on there.
I have no idea what it's going to be or anything, but I'm excited. So.
Oh, I'm excited. I want to hear a Scott Strickland voice in a. Oh my gosh, it would be great if the character you're voicing has a Cirque 22 shirt on.
Yeah, well, I was a little. That was at least something that kind of tied me over. Was at least I was in there in spirit because of the Cirque 22. But
it is really amazing how fun it is to be in a Jim Lujan thing, or like work with Jim on stuff. Yeah,
other than animating one of his shorts with him, I haven't actually been a character.
Okay,
I've done a couple. I've done a couple like little background, like just say some stuff and I'll mix it in with the crowd. But it's no, you never really, But so
it'll happen. I think there's going to be one with a conspiracy theorist again.
I have been murdered. I've been murdered with Josh, and I've been at Trailer Park.
Yeah, and you're 1 degree away. So
you also co-created one with Jim.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Right.
But yeah, just collaborating with him or just having a part in that is so fun because what he does is so cool.
Oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Well, you guys, we're almost at like the 1 hour and 30 mark. I feel like we hit this topic. I think hopefully if we got anything across, like if you guys mentioned something in the chats we didn't address, I apologize. We tried to get to everybody. It was a fun group in the chats today, and I really want to thank everybody who's hung out and chatted with us about this. I think if there's any takeaway, at least for me from this, it's like it's like Corey was saying, where it's like you need to know your objective, but don't get lost in the objective and paralyzed by it. But also don't allow yourself to pause too quickly on the road at like once you hit one milestone, it's like, okay, journey done. Because there's another milestone to keep going, and moving's important, right? I think Corey had said this before too. Corey, was it you who was saying or quoting somebody who talked about being an artist, you kind of have to be a shark?
Oh, I don't think that was me, but I like that concept.
Maybe it was somebody who was a guest on our show. They were talking about, you kind of have to be a shark. You like swim or you drown. You just got to keep you got to keep moving. If you hit a hurdle, like redirect, keep moving, But yeah, that's my takeaway. I don't know. You guys have anything you want to cap it off with, or?
No, I think I feel a lot better after this conversation. So I'm kind of getting more excited. So it's just good to kind of catch up since we haven't really recorded in a few weeks.
Yeah,
catch up with you guys and kick some ideas around. So I think it's good that we came back into this one without a guest, but we will we're gonna we'll have a guest next week, and
I'm excited about the guest. Yeah, the guest next week is a person I went to grad school with who's done a lot of like kind of higher end galleries with art, and it's a realm like we've had gallery guests, but it's a different side of
people who run galleries and
yeah, but it's a different side of gallery work, and I think it'll be really interesting for people. Plus, the art is really like artsy, but also illustrative in like a really beautiful way. And I think you guys will find it really fascinating and cool. And their technique's really good too, because I remember being in the grad studio when they were working and just being stunned at like what they were doing, like scratch boards and like all sorts of mixed media that's done in a way that, that kind of art where it's like, is that like, it's hard to see what's being used. So definitely make sure you guys all tune in for that. Corey, where can everybody, because Scott's got to close this out. So Corey, where can everybody find your stuff?
Yeah, well, you're on my channel, I think, right? Yeah. So make sure to like the video if you haven't already, and if you're not following for whatever reason, then rectify that situation. Jump onto CoreyCurr.com and go check out some merch. I've got mugs and hoodies, and actually I ordered one of my own hoodies, and I like these hoodies. They're pretty rad. And you can just go right there on CoreyCurr.com, or you can go to CoreyCurr.com/store or shop. I think both of those go to the same place. But go check that stuff out. It'll be good. So
it's riveting.
It is riveting. Yeah, we can do the rivets. Next week I will have rivets all over my face and arms because I'll have riveted everything else.
Rivet piercings.
I'm gonna rivet pierce. Yeah, it'll be good. I'll give myself like a permanent rivet dimple. It'll be awesome.
That's so interesting though, because it like instantly makes me think of all the things you could rivet, and that actually is a really useful tool.
It is, and they're not as expensive as I would have thought because it's like such a like. Anyway,
It's a
yeah,
very simple tool. Yeah, it's a lot different than I thought.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, it looks
yeah,
more
I
like a pin maker or something, you know?
right, yeah. I
Yeah,
fully
it's
expected,
almost like a button maker. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I fully expected these to be like, you had to hook it up to an air compressor and it has some sort of welding butane thing going on or whatever. But it's just pressure. It's just this thing you just do with pressure. A lot of them are like a grip thing. But I like this one because you can use your arms. Anyway,
I love
they're
it.
good. Yeah. So yeah, stick around. Jump on my email newsletter. I will probably do something like that soon. And you do not run the risk of me emailing you too much. That's definitely not going to happen.
Well, awesome. Yeah, so if you guys are out there struggling to get on your comics and your work, just know we do too. And like today forward, let's just all do no excuses. Let's try. Okay. And you can watch me on that journey on Joshua Kimball on YouTube and see if I'm able to kind of build a more current daily habit of working on comics and get back on that horse. And then also support my comics because these things are a long journey, and I've scaled 2 of those mountains doing 2 graphic novels, Jacob's Apartment and 2 stories, and readers and support means the world to those of us who are going on those journeys. And Scott, last but not least, if people want to see awesome, amazing YouTube content, where should they go, Scott? And then also, how do they keep track of this crazy channel?
Yeah, definitely check out my YouTube channel where I'm reverse engineering classic nostalgia from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, putting my own unique spin on it. And I think a really cool format. So definitely check it out. In addition to that, I have a website at circworks.com where you can check out, I've got a lot of digital products that will help you in your comic making endeavors. Just check out some of those, and also check out my own comic, Young and the Dead. It's a kids versus zombie adventure story. Just think Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. It's a lot of fun. It's set in the 80s, and it's just got that feel of like E.T. or Goonies or Monster Squad or all that, but with all the with zombies. So check that out. And this show we do, I was going to say every single week. We were on a little bit of a break, but we're back to our regular schedule. So we will be moving forward, going to every other week, moving up to episode 400, which is going to be pretty awesome.
You know what? Maybe after episode 400, we should start calling it issue because that's kind of rad.
I did that with 100 making 100 day. I mean, I did that with Making Comics 101. I called all the episodes issues. So
maybe we could borrow that. And do that.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you want to know when we're going to go live and everything, because it bounces around from different channels, we've got different guests. The time is kind of fluctuating. It may be at a different time next week. That can get a little confusing, but if you want to know exactly when we're going to go live, what day, all that stuff, we have a newsletter, and we send out usually about 30 minutes or so before we go live. We'll send out a link so you know you're alerted and you know who the guest is going to be, what day, all that kind of stuff. So just join that mailing list. There is a link in the description of this video. We don't spam you or anything. That's all we do is notify you when we're about to go live. And before we go, I also wanted to thank the chat. We had a lot of great comments today.
Yeah.
So very lively chat. So thank you, everyone. And let's keep that going. Keep you guys interacting in the chat, and we'll do our best to pull up comments and address them as we go on and everything.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
I have a question because I'm looking at that DeLorean behind you.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, can we end this like Back to the Future where we're going to head, where are you going? We're running out of roads, Scott.
Is it where we're going? Is there where we're going? There are no roads. I forgot what the
where
roads?
We're going. We don't need roads.
We don't need, where we're going. We don't need roads.
All right, Corey, ready to end it?
We got
to hit end.
I wasn't hosting.